Story 1. The Loop on Highway 50. Marcus Chen had been driving the loneliest road in America for 15 years, hauling freight between Carson City and Ely along Highway 50. He knew every mile marker, every rest stop, every peculiar rock formation that jutted from the Nevada desert like broken teeth. The locals called it the loneliest road, and Marcus had always found comfort in that isolation. No traffic, no hassle, just him and the endless ribbon of asphalt cutting through ancient basin and range country. It was October when things changed. Marcus picked up a load of industrial equipment in Carson City around 10 p.m., planning to make Ely by sunrise. The night was clear, stars scattered across the sky like shattered glass. His GPS showed the familiar route, and he settled into the rhythm of the road, classic rock playing low on the stereo. Around midnight, he passed through Fallen, the last real town before the long stretch. The Sinclair station glowed like a beacon, and he considered stopping but decided against it. He had a full tank and 6 thermoses of coffee. The next town, Austin, was about 90 miles ahead, a tiny speck of civilization in the middle of nowhere. Mile marker 47 passed, then 48. Marcus knew this stretch intimately. At mile marker 52, there was an old abandoned ranch house, its roof caved in, that he'd watched decay over the years. He glanced at his odometer, counting down. Mile marker 47 passed. Marcus frowned. He must have miscounted. He turned down the radio and focused on the road. The mile markers ticked by: 48, 49, 50, 51. At 52, the abandoned ranch house appeared in his headlights exactly as expected. He relaxed slightly, shaking his head at his own confusion. Long hauls could mess with your head. He cranked up the radio and pushed on. The road stretched ahead, perfectly straight, his headlights carving a tunnel through the darkness. Mile marker 47 passed. Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. That wasn't possible. He checked his odometer. The numbers were climbing normally. He checked his GPS. It showed him progressing along Highway 50, approaching mile marker 48. But the sign that just passed definitely said 47. He watched carefully now. 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. The ranch house again, identical to before. Same caved-in roof, same angle, same everything. "What the hell?" Marcus muttered. He grabbed his CB radio. "Breaker, breaker, this is Big Bear. Anybody out there?" Static answered him. Not unusual on this stretch. He was in the middle of nowhere. He tried his cell phone. No signal. Also not unusual. Mile marker 47 passed. Marcus's heart began to hammer. He counted out loud now, watching each marker pass. 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. The ranch house appeared again, and he noticed something he hadn't before. In the window, the broken second-story window, there was a light, just a flicker like a candle. He'd been passing this house for 15 years. It had no light. It had no roof. His speedometer showed 65 mph. His odometer showed miles accumulating. His GPS insisted he was making progress, but mile marker 47 kept coming back. On the 4th loop, Marcus decided to stop. As he approached mile marker 52, he hit the brakes, pulling onto the shoulder in front of the ranch house. His engine idled, the sound absurdly loud in the desert silence. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped out. The air was wrong. It should have been cold. Desert nights in October were near freezing. Instead, it was warm, almost humid, with a thick quality that made breathing difficult. The stars overhead seemed dimmer, as if a film had been drawn across the sky. The ranch house stood 50 yards off the road. In his headlights, it looked even more decrepit than usual, but that light still flickered in the upper window. Marcus walked toward it, his boots crunching on gravel. Every instinct screamed at him to get back in the truck, but he needed to understand what was happening. The front door hung open and he stepped inside. The interior was gutted, floor joists exposed, walls stripped to studs. Moonlight filtered through gaps in what remained of the roof. A staircase, somehow still intact, led upward. The light flickered from above. "Hello," Marcus called. His voice fell flat, absorbed by the dead air. He climbed the stairs, each step groaning. The second floor was even more destroyed than the first. Most of the floor was gone, leaving only a narrow walkway along the wall. The room with the light was at the end. Inside, a lantern sat on the floor. Not a candle, an old kerosene lantern burning steadily. Next to it was a logbook, leather-bound and ancient. Marcus picked it up with trembling hands. The first entry was dated August 3, 1952. Passed mile marker 47 for the third time. Stopped at the old Porter Ranch. Found this book. Previous entry says, Marcus flipped back a page. July 19, 1934. Then June 2, 1908. The book was filled with entries, all describing the same thing. Drivers passing mile marker 47 over and over, stopping at the ranch, finding the book. The most recent entry before his was dated October 15, 2019, 2 weeks ago. Day 4 in the loop. Fuel gauge doesn't go down. Food doesn't run out. Tried driving the other direction. Same loop. Tried driving off-road. Truck won't leave the highway. It's like a groove in reality. I can feel it pulling me back. If you're reading this, you're trapped too. Don't waste time trying to escape. It doesn't work. Marcus's hands shook so badly he nearly dropped the book. He looked at his watch, 12:47 a.m. He'd been on this loop for almost an hour, but his watch still worked, time still passed. He ran back to his truck, gunned the engine, and took off. Mile markers blurred past, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. The ranch house again. He kept driving. 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, again and again. On the 7th loop, he noticed his fuel gauge, still 3/4 full, exactly where it had been when he'd passed Fallen. He tried turning around, heading back toward Carson City. The road looked the same in both directions. Mile markers counted down, 52, 51, 50, 49, 48, 47. Then he was at 52 again, the ranch house approaching. Marcus pulled over, breathing hard. He checked his supplies, 6 thermoses of coffee, a cooler full of sandwiches. He drank an entire thermos, then checked again, 6 thermoses, full. The sun never came up. His watch kept ticking, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., but the sky remained locked at midnight, stars dim, moon frozen in place. On the 23rd loop, Marcus stopped counting. He'd been driving for hours. His watch said 9 a.m., but night persisted. He'd filled his logbook with observations, calculations, theories. Nothing helped. He tried everything. Drove at 20 mph, drove at 90 mph, stopped at different points, walked away from his truck. The loop always reset at the same 6-mile stretch. Day 2, according to his watch, brought a new horror. Marcus saw headlights ahead. Another truck heading toward him. As it approached, he flashed his lights, laid on his horn. The truck passed without slowing. The driver stared straight ahead, expression blank. Marcus whipped around, chasing after it, but the other truck disappeared at mile marker 47, winking out of existence like it had never been. He saw more trucks after that. Sometimes one per loop, sometimes several, all heading in the same direction, all with blank-faced drivers. None responded to his signals. On day 4, Marcus returned to the ranch house. The logbook had new entries from him, dated 2 days in the future. Day 6. I understand now. It's not about escaping, it's about accepting. The loop is a pocket, a fold in the world. We're the ones who got caught in the crease. I've seen my own truck pass me now. Different loops, different versions, all of us driving the same 6 miles forever. Marcus dropped the book and ran, but there was nowhere to run to, just the loop, always the loop. His watch said October 23rd when he finally stopped caring. He'd been in the loop for 3 weeks. His body should have broken down. No sleep, constant driving, but he felt fine. Not hungry, not tired, just endlessly alert, endlessly driving. He'd learned the rhythm now. Mile marker 47, the subtle shift in air pressure that meant reset. 48, 49, 50. The ranch house at 52. 6 miles, repeating eternally. Sometimes Marcus thinks about the book's warning. Don't waste time trying to escape. He wonders how long the others drove before accepting their fate. How many are still out there, trapped in their own loops, wearing grooves in reality? His CB radio crackles sometimes with voices. Other drivers, other loops. They tell their stories when they can, warnings to whoever might hear. But the signal never lasts long. The loop always reasserts itself. Mile marker 47 passes, then 48. Marcus doesn't count anymore. He just drives, one of countless trucks caught in the folds of Highway 50, eternally circling a 6-mile stretch of the loneliest road in America. The loop is patient. The loop is forever. And Marcus Chen has become part of it. Story 2. The Wrong Exit. Sarah Mitchell prided herself on preparation. In 12 years of long-haul trucking, she'd never missed a delivery, never had an accident, never gotten seriously lost. She triple-checked routes, maintained her truck religiously, and kept detailed logs of every journey. Her fellow drivers called her the machine because of her precision. Interstate 80 through Wyoming was familiar territory. Sarah had run this route at least 100 times, hauling everything from electronics to livestock feed between Omaha and Sacramento. She knew every truck stop, every way station, every stretch of black ice in winter. It was late March, around 11 p.m., when Sarah rolled through Rawlins. The night was clear, temperature hovering just above freezing, light traffic, good conditions. She had a load of furniture heading to Reno, and she was making excellent time. Her GPS showed she'd reach Rock Springs in about an hour, where she planned to refuel and grab some food. About 40 miles past Rawlins, Sarah's bladder insisted on attention. She hadn't seen any rest stops since leaving town, but according to her GPS, there was a service area coming up in 3 miles. Exit 187. She didn't remember it, but GPS didn't lie. The exit sign appeared in her headlights. Exit 187 services 1 mile. The sign looked old, paint faded, different from the standard green Wyoming road signs. Sarah frowned but took the exit. Sometimes rural areas had outdated signage. The off-ramp curved away from the interstate, and Sarah immediately noticed something wrong. The pavement changed from smooth, modern asphalt to rough, pitted concrete. Her truck rattled over expansion joints that felt wrong, too close together, too deep. The vegetation along the roadside was different too. Instead of sagebrush and prairie grass, thick clusters of trees pressed close to the road. Trees that shouldn't exist in this part of Wyoming. The service area appeared ahead, a single building with dim fluorescent lights and 2 ancient gas pumps out front. A hand-painted sign read Fuel Food Rest. No chain branding, no modern logos. Just that hand-painted sign and a building that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1970s. Sarah pulled into the parking lot. No other vehicles. The building's windows glowed with yellow light, but she couldn't see anyone inside. The gas pumps were the old mechanical kind, with analog number tumblers instead of digital displays. She checked her phone. No signal. Her GPS had gone blank the moment she'd left the interstate, showing only gray void. Sarah felt the first flutter of unease but pushed it down. Rural dead zones existed. This was just an old, poorly maintained service area. She climbed out and the air hit her wrong. It smelled like ozone and copper, thick and electric, making her sinuses ache. The fluorescent lights buzzed too loud, their hum drilling into her skull. The building's door stuck, requiring a hard shove to open. Inside, the place was a time capsule. Linoleum floor cracked and yellowed. A lunch counter with red vinyl stools, the vinyl splitting to show foam beneath. Shelves stocked with brands Sarah didn't recognize. Candy bars and chips with logos that looked almost right but weren't. Behind the counter stood a man in a grease-stained uniform. He was middle-aged with a face that seemed blurred somehow, features difficult to focus on. He smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Help you?" His voice sounded like it was coming through a bad phone connection. "Restroom?" Sarah asked. He pointed to a hallway at the back. Down there, first door. The bathroom was as dated as the rest of the building, but clean. Sarah used it quickly, washing her hands with pink soap that smelled like nothing she'd ever encountered, sweet but chemical, like artificial fruit mixed with gasoline. When she emerged, the man was still behind the counter, still wearing that disconnected smile. "You're not from around here," he said, not a question. "Just passing through," Sarah replied, "heading to Rock Springs." His smile widened slightly. "Rock Springs, that's a ways. About 40 miles. Is it?" His head tilted at an angle that seemed too severe. "Time's funny out here, distance too." Sarah felt her skin prickle. "I should get going." "Most people who stop here say that. Most people who stop here don't leave." Sarah's hand found her keys. "What's that supposed to mean?" The man gestured toward the windows. "Take a look." Sarah turned. Beyond the glass where her truck should have been parked, there was only darkness. Not night darkness, absolute void, like someone had painted the windows black. "What the hell?" She ran to the door, yanked it open. Her truck was gone. The parking lot was gone. The gas pumps were gone. Beyond the building's threshold was nothing. Literally nothing, a vast emptiness that hurt to look at, a space where light and matter ceased to exist. Sarah stumbled backward. The man behind the counter watched her with that terrible smile. "Where's my truck? What is this place?" "Exit 187, he said simply. "You took the exit, now you're here." "There is no exit 187 on I-80 through Wyoming." "Isn't there? You saw the sign, you took the exit, and now you're here with the rest of us." Sarah noticed them then. Other people sitting in booths she could have sworn were empty moments before. A woman in a 1960s dress staring at a cup of coffee. A man in trucker gear from the 1980s, CB radio on his hip. A teenage boy in clothes Sarah couldn't quite place. All of them staring at nothing, faces blank. "How long have they been here?" Sarah whispered. "Some of them, decades, some of them, hard to say. Like I told you, time's funny here. Exit 187 exists between moments, between miles, a fold in the road. Every so often someone sees the sign, takes the exit, and then they're here." Sarah backed toward what should have been the exit. The door was still there, still opened onto that terrible void. "You can't go back," the man said. "The way you came closed the moment you arrived. That's how it works. The exit exists just long enough to catch someone, then it disappears." "This is insane." Sarah pulled out her phone, still no signal, but she tried anyway, dialing 911. The phone made a sound like screaming static. The man shook his head. "Electronics don't work right here. We're nowhere between. You can sit, have some coffee, wait it out. Some people stay conscious, present. Others," he gestured at the blank-faced people, "they retreat into themselves. Find peace in the quiet." Sarah ran to the back of the building looking for another exit. She found one, a back door leading to a delivery area. She burst through it and found the same thing. Void, absolute nothing. She tried the windows. They wouldn't break, wouldn't even crack when she hit them with a stool. The glass felt wrong, too soft, like it was made of something that only resembled glass. For hours, though her watch had stopped, frozen at 11:47 p.m., Sarah searched the building. Every exit led to nothing. Every window showed void. The building had become its own reality, disconnected from everything. The man watched her with patient amusement. The others never moved. Finally, exhausted, Sarah collapsed at the counter. "There has to be a way out." "There is," the man said. "Same way you came in. Someone else has to take exit 187. When they do, the exit reopens for a moment. If you're fast enough, aware enough, you can slip through before it closes again. That's how I got here, took the place of the previous attendant. That's how it works. One in, one out." "How long have you been here?" "I stopped counting at 15 years. Sarah felt something break inside her. "So I just wait for someone else to take this exit that shouldn't exist. It exists when it wants to, when the fold in reality opens. Could be tomorrow, could be 50 years from now." He leaned forward. "But here's the thing, when it opens, when someone new arrives, you have seconds to escape. Most people don't make it. They're too far gone, too settled into the nothing." Sarah looked at the blank-faced people. "And them? They're still here, bodies still breathing, minds gone somewhere else. Maybe it's better that way, fighting it, staying aware. It's exhausting. Days passed, or didn't. Sarah's watch stayed frozen. Her phone's battery never died but remained useless. She didn't get hungry, didn't get tired. She existed in a state of perpetual wakefulness, trapped in the fluorescent-lit purgatory of exit 187. She tried staying alert, pacing the building, talking to the man. He told her about others who'd been here, travelers from different eras, all caught by the same wrong turn. He showed her a logbook, entries spanning from 1947 to last year, each person recording their arrival, their attempts to escape, their eventual surrender. Sarah refused to surrender. She positioned herself by the front door, watching the void, waiting for any change. The man warned her that when it opened, she'd have maybe 5 seconds before it closed again. Weeks passed, or years. Sarah couldn't tell anymore. She kept her focus on the door, on the void beyond, watching for the slightest shift. And then finally she saw it, a flicker in the darkness, a suggestion of light, of space, of reality. She didn't hesitate. She burst through the door as headlights appeared in the void. Another truck, another driver taking the exit. Sarah ran, her legs remembering how to move, and she felt solid ground beneath her feet, felt the air change from nothing to something. She looked back once. The building was fading, the new arrival's headlights illuminating a man in modern trucker gear stepping inside. The attendant was already at the counter, already smiling that disconnected smile. Then Sarah was on the off-ramp, the service area gone, replaced by empty scrubland. Her truck sat on the shoulder of I-80, emergency flashers on exactly where she'd left it. Her watch read 11:48 p.m. 1 minute had passed. Sarah climbed into her cab, hands shaking. She grabbed her CB radio. "Breaker, breaker, this is the machine. Anyone out there, listen up. If you see exit 187 on I-80 in Wyoming, do not take it. I don't care what your GPS says. I don't care if you need fuel, do not take that exit." Static answered her. Then a voice, distant and crackling, "Too late." Sarah drove away, but she still watches for that sign. Exit 187, the wrong exit. And she wonders how many others are out there, trapped in that fluorescent-lit nowhere, waiting for the next lost soul to take their place. Story 3. The HITCHHIKERON Route 666. James Rodriguez had hauled freight through the Southwest for 23 years, and he'd heard every driver legend there was. Phantom hitchhikers, ghost cars, UFOs over the desert. He'd heard them all and believed none of them. James was a practical man who trusted his eyes, his hands, and his diesel Peterbilt. But he'd never driven the old Route 666. The highway had been officially renumbered to US 491 back in 2003. The state government's tired of the Devil's Highway jokes and the sign theft. But locals still called it 666, and it still ran its cursed path through Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah. James usually avoided it. The road was rough, poorly maintained, and full of rough patches that made for slow going. In January, though, James didn't have a choice. He was hauling drilling equipment from Albuquerque to Cortez, and his usual route was closed due to a major pile-up. His dispatcher rerouted him up 666 with a warning, "Get through it before dark if you can." James had laughed it off. He'd left Albuquerque at 3 p.m., planning to make Cortez by 9. Easy run. But a blown tire outside Shiprock cost him 2 hours. By the time he got back on the road, the sun was setting, painting the desert in shades of blood and rust. The highway stretched ahead, empty and lonely, cutting through red rock country that looked like the bones of the earth exposed to the sky. Night fell fast in the desert. One moment twilight, the next complete darkness broken only by his headlights. Traffic was non-existent. James hadn't seen another vehicle in 40 miles. That's when he saw the hitchhiker. The man stood on the shoulder, thumb out, maybe 60 yards ahead. He was dressed normally, jeans, denim jacket, baseball cap. Nothing unusual. James normally didn't pick up hitchhikers, but something made him slow down. Maybe it was the isolation of the road. Maybe it was guilt about leaving someone stranded in the desert night. He pulled over. The hitchhiker jogged up to the passenger side and James leaned over to open the door. "Appreciate it," the man said, climbing in. He had a weathered face, probably 50, with the look of someone who worked outdoors. "Truck broke down about 10 miles back. Been walking for an hour." "Where you headed?" James asked, pulling back onto the highway. "Cortez, you going that far?" "That's where I'm headed." The hitchhiker smiled. Lucky timing. They drove in silence for a few minutes. James kept stealing glances at his passenger. Something felt off, though he couldn't put his finger on it. The man sat too still, maybe. Didn't fidget, didn't look around, just stared straight ahead. "What's your name?" James asked. "Robert, you." "James." More silence. The radio played country music, low volume. James's CB crackled occasionally with distant chatter. "Can I ask you something?" Robert said suddenly. "Sure." "Do you believe in the devil?" James laughed uncomfortably. "That's a hell of a question." "I mean it. Do you believe in the devil, in hell, in damnation?" "I'm Catholic, supposed to believe in that stuff, I guess." Robert nodded slowly. "What if I told you hell isn't below us? What if I told you it's here, woven into certain places? Thin spots where the membrane between worlds gets stretched too tight." "I'd say you've been in the desert too long." Robert smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Route 666. They renamed it, but that doesn't change what it is. This road was built wrong, James. The surveyor who laid it out back in 1926, his name was Samuel Hurst. He was an occultist. Did you know that?" James shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't." "He designed the road with specific curves, specific angles. Geometry that means something to people who understand such things. This highway is a sigil, James, a symbol carved into the earth, and it draws things, bad things. Look, Robert, I appreciate the company, but there's a reason they renamed it, not because of jokes, because people kept disappearing. 13 documented vanishings between 1986 and 2003. Trucks found abandoned, engines still running, doors open. Drivers never seen again." James's hands tightened on the wheel. "You're trying to spook me. I'm trying to warn you." Robert turned to look at him for the first time since getting in the truck. His eyes were black, not dark brown, completely black like pools of oil reflecting nothing. "I'm one of the things this road draws." James slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded, tires screaming. Robert didn't move, didn't brace himself. He sat perfectly still as the truck came to a shuddering halt. "Get out," James said, his voice shaking. "I can't, that's not how it works." Robert's voice had changed, deepened, like multiple voices speaking in unison. "You stopped, you let me in. Now we're bound until we reach the crossroads." "What crossroads?" "You'll know it when we get there. Drive, James, you can't escape by stopping." James grabbed his CB radio. "Mayday, this is Rodriguez, I need." The radio exploded in his hand, sparks flying. James yelped, dropping the burning handset. The dashboard lights flickered and his headlights dimmed to a weak yellow glow. "Electronics fail here," Robert said. "We're between now, in the thin place." James looked out his windows. The desert was gone. Instead of scrubland and rock formations, there was only darkness pressing against the glass. Not night darkness, something thicker, something that seemed to writhe and pulse with malevolent life. "What do you want?" James whispered. "Want? I don't want anything. I'm a collector. You picked me up, so now I ride with you to the crossroads. When we get there, you'll have to choose." "Choose what?" "To give me something or to be taken yourself." James's mind raced. He thought about jumping out, abandoning the truck. But when he looked at the driver's side window, he saw that darkness pressing close, and he knew instinctively that opening the door would be worse than staying. He drove. What else could he do? The highway stretched ahead, illuminated weakly by his dying headlights. The white lines seemed to glow with their own light now, phosphorescent and sickly. "Tell me about Samuel Hurst," James said, trying to keep his voice steady. "He sold his soul for knowledge, the old-fashioned way. Summoning, bargaining, sealing. In exchange, he learned how to mark the earth, how to create pathways. He built several roads during his career, but this one was his masterpiece. Route 666, a highway that exists in both worlds simultaneously." "Both worlds?" yours and mine. The living and the damned. This road is a bridge, James, and I'm one of the toll collectors. They drove for what felt like hours. James's watch had stopped, frozen at 8:47 p.m. The darkness outside never changed, never lightened. Occasionally, James thought he saw shapes moving in the void, twisted figures that walked on too many legs, faces that opened like flowers full of teeth. Robert sat motionless, those black eyes fixed on the road ahead. "The crossroads are coming," he said finally. "I can feel them. What happens there? You'll see." The intersection appeared suddenly, two roads crossing at perfect right angles, the pavement marked with symbols James didn't recognize. At each corner stood a figure, four people in old-fashioned clothes, standing perfectly still, watching. James stopped the truck at the center of the crossroads. Robert turned to him. "Here's your choice, James Rodriguez. Give me something you love, something that matters, and you can leave this road. You'll wake up in Cortez tomorrow morning with no memory of this night. You'll go on living your life. And if I refuse, then you stay here, become one of them." Robert gestured to the figures at the corners. "The previous travelers who couldn't pay, they stand at the crossroads forever, watching others face the same choice." "What kind of thing do you mean? Money? My truck?" Robert laughed, the sound like grinding metal. "Nothing so simple. I need something from your soul, James, a memory, a relationship, a dream, something that makes you who you are. Give me your love of your daughter and you'll forget you ever had one. Give me your memories of your mother and she'll be erased from your mind. Give me your passion for driving and you'll never want to get behind a wheel again." James felt tears streaming down his face. "That's evil. I'm not the devil, James. I'm just a collector. The road demands payment. It always has." James thought about his daughter, Maria. She was 16, smart, funny, everything good in his life. He thought about his mother, dead 5 years now, but still present in every decision he made. He thought about driving, the freedom of the road, the only job he'd ever loved. "I can't," he whispered. Robert nodded sadly. "Then you'll stay." "Wait." James looked at the figures standing at the corners. They were clearer now. He could see their faces, frozen in expressions of sorrow and regret. "What about you? What did you give?" Robert was quiet for a moment. "Everything. I was the surveyor's assistant. Samuel Hurst needed someone to help lay the markers, to set the geometry correctly. I was young, eager to learn. I didn't understand what we were building until it was too late. When the road was complete, I became its first payment. I gave everything, my name, my past, my future. Now I'm just the collector, riding the thin places, gathering what the road demands." An idea sparked in James's mind. "What if I could give you something that doesn't hurt me, something I want to lose?" "Interesting. What do you propose?" James thought hard. "Fear. Take my fear of you, of this place, of the darkness. I'll give you that." Robert tilted his head, considering. "Fear is a powerful thing. It keeps you alive, keeps you cautious." "I don't care. Take it. Take all my fear of the supernatural, of the unknown. Let me forget this night, but not by losing something good. Let me forget because I won't be capable of feeling afraid of it anymore." Robert smiled, and for a moment his eyes were human again, brown and tired. "That's acceptable. The road will take it. But know this, James Rodriguez, without that fear you might not stop next time. You might drive this road again, and next time you'll have nothing left to bargain with. I'll take that chance." Robert reached out and touched James's forehead. James felt something drain out of him, like water through a sieve. The darkness outside seemed less threatening suddenly, the shapes in the void just shadows, the whole experience distant and unreal. "It's done," Robert said. "Drive through the crossroads, don't look back." James put the truck in gear and drove forward. The moment he crossed the intersection, light flooded back. He was on Route 491, not 666, the designation clear on the signs around him. The desert stretched out normally, stars bright overhead. His dashboard lights were working. His CB radio was intact. Robert was gone. James pulled over and checked his watch. 8:48 p.m. 1 minute had passed since it stopped. He doesn't remember the details anymore. The memory of that night exists in fragments, like a dream half forgotten upon waking. But sometimes when he drives through the Southwest and sees signs for US 491, he feels the faintest echo of something. Not fear, he lost that, but recognition. A sense that the road knows him and he knows the road. And he always takes the long way around, even if he can't quite remember why. Story 4. The warehouse that wasn't there. Trevor Walsh had delivered to every corner of the continental United States. In 18 years of hauling freight, he'd backed into loading docks in major cities and down dirt roads in the middle of nowhere. He delivered to factories, farms, stores, and homes. Nothing surprised him anymore. The delivery order for February 12th seemed straightforward. Industrial shelving units to a warehouse in rural Pennsylvania, just outside Harrisburg. The address was listed as 4700 Old Mill Road, and the GPS coordinates put it about 30 miles west of the city in farm country. Standard job. Trevor loaded up in Baltimore early morning, expecting to make the delivery by noon. The drive was uneventful, I-83 north, then a series of state routes that wound through rolling hills and bare winter fields. Snow from last week's storm still patched the landscape, dirty gray against brown earth. He found Old Mill Road easily enough. It was a narrow 2-lane rural route, lined with ancient oak trees and scattered farmhouses. The GPS showed the warehouse about 5 miles down on the left. Trevor watched the numbers on the mailboxes, 4100, 4200, 4300, farms with silos and barns, an old church, a closed general store, 4400, 4500. The buildings were getting more spaced out now, the road climbing into hillier terrain. At exactly 4700, the GPS announced, "You have arrived at your destination." Trevor looked around. There was no warehouse. To his left was an empty field, overgrown with dead grass and scrub brush. To his right, dense woods, nothing else. He pulled over and checked the paperwork. 4700 Old Mill Road. The delivery order included a contact number. Trevor called it. A man answered on the third ring. Evergreen Storage. "Yeah, this is Trevor Walsh with Empire Freight. I've got your delivery, but I can't find the warehouse. I'm at 4700 Old Mill Road and there's nothing here." "You're at the right place. Give it a minute. The entrance can be hard to spot." "Hard to spot, sir. There's nothing here but a field. Look for the tree line. About 200 yards into the field, you'll see it." Trevor wanted to argue, but the man had already hung up. He grabbed his binoculars. He kept them for spotting address numbers from a distance and scanned the field. At first, he saw nothing. Just dead grass and the occasional dead tree trunk. Then, as he focused on the far tree line, something resolved into view, a structure. It was enormous, industrial, made of corrugated metal, a warehouse, but it hadn't been there a moment ago. Trevor was sure of it. He de-looked at that exact spot and it had been empty. He lowered the binoculars and looked again with naked eyes. The field appeared empty. He raised the binoculars. The warehouse was there, clear as day. "What the hell?" Trevor muttered. He couldn't drive his truck across the field, too soft, too uneven. He'd get stuck for sure. But the delivery order was clear. Bring the shelving units to the warehouse. Refusing a delivery meant lost money and black marks on his record. Trevor climbed out and started walking across the field. The ground was frozen, crunching under his boots. Without the binoculars, he couldn't see the warehouse, but he walked straight toward where it should be, using a dead oak tree as a landmark. The air changed as he walked. It got colder, and not just winter cold, something deeper, more fundamental. His breath came out in thick clouds. His ears popped like he was changing altitude, though the field was flat. When he was about halfway across, the warehouse suddenly snapped into view as if someone had switched on its existence. One moment, empty field, the next, a massive structure looming ahead. Trevor stumbled, his brain struggling to process what his eyes were telling him. The warehouse was old but well maintained. The corrugated walls were rust red, the roof a darker brown. A large rolling door dominated the front with a regular entry door beside it. No company logos, no signage except a metal plate reading 4700. Trevor approached the entry door and knocked. No answer. He tried the handle unlocked. The door swung open on well-oiled hinges. Inside, the warehouse was cavernous. Industrial shelving units, ironically the same kind Trevor was delivering, stretched in neat rows, all filled with boxes, crates, and pallets. The lighting was dim, coming from old fluorescent fixtures that buzzed constantly. "Hello," Trevor called. His voice echoed strangely, the acoustics all wrong. A man emerged from between the shelves. He was middle-aged, wearing a gray jumpsuit with evergreen storage embroidered on the chest. His face was pale, his expression neutral. "You're the delivery driver," he said, not a question. "Yeah, Trevor Walsh. I've got industrial shelving in my truck, but I can't bring the truck across that field. You've got equipment to unload. We'll handle it, just give me your paperwork." Trevor handed over the delivery manifest. The man looked it over, nodded, and pulled out a clipboard. "Sign here. Don't you want to inspect the shipment first?" "Not necessary. We know what we ordered." Trevor signed, feeling increasingly uneasy. "Can I ask you something? Why can't I see this building from the road?" The man looked up, his expression unchanging. "You signed the manifest. Transaction's complete. You should go now." "I'm just curious. You should go now." The man's voice hadn't changed in volume or tone, but something about it made Trevor's skin crawl. "Right, okay. How do I get the shelving to you?" "We'll retrieve it from your truck. Go now." Trevor backed toward the door, keeping his eyes on the man. Something was deeply wrong here. Warehouse, the weird visibility issue, this man's flat affect, all of it screamed danger. He stepped outside and started walking back across the field. Behind him, he heard the warehouse door close with a metallic clang. He didn't look back, just walked quickly toward where his truck should be. The field seemed longer now. Trevor walked and walked, but his truck didn't get any closer. The dead oak tree he'd used as a landmark seemed to recede as he approached it. He checked his watch. 12:15 p.m. He'd been walking for at least 5 minutes, but he should have reached his truck by now. Trevor turned around. The warehouse was gone. The field stretched empty behind him. He pulled out his phone to check his GPS. No signal. The screen showed his location as a blank gray area, no roads, no landmarks, nothing. He kept walking, faster now, almost running. The field went on and on. After 20 minutes, according to his watch, though it felt like hours, Trevor stopped, breathing hard. This wasn't possible. The field had been maybe 400 yards across. He walked at least a mile. In the distance, he heard a sound, a metallic scraping, rhythmic and slow. He turned toward it. Figures emerged from the tree line. 3 men in gray jumpsuits pushing a flatbed cart. On the cart were the industrial shelving units from Trevor's truck. They moved in perfect synchronization, faces blank, not acknowledging Trevor's presence. "Hey," Trevor shouted. "Hey, what's going on?" The men didn't respond. They pushed the cart across the field, and as they moved, the warehouse phased back into existence, materializing around them like reality was being redrawn. Trevor ran toward them, but with each step, they seemed to get further away. The field was stretching, expanding, becoming vast. He ran until his lungs burned, but the men and the warehouse kept receding. Finally, exhausted, Trevor collapsed. He lay in the frozen grass, staring at the gray sky, trying to understand what was happening. Time passed. His watch showed 2:00 p.m., then 4:00 p.m., then 6:00 p.m. The light never changed. The sky remained the same overcast gray. Trevor eventually got up and picked a direction, any direction, and walked. He walked for hours, days maybe. His watch kept ticking, but his body didn't tire. He didn't get hungry or thirsty. He just walked through the endless field while the sky stayed gray and the warehouse occasionally appeared in the distance, always too far to reach. He saw other people sometimes. Other delivery drivers, their trucks parked at impossible angles in the grass, wandering aimlessly. They never acknowledged each other, passing like ghosts. Trevor found himself back at his truck eventually, or maybe it was a different truck that looked like his. The cab was empty. His paperwork was gone. The shelving units were gone. The trailer stood empty, its doors hanging open. He climbed into the cab and sat there trying to make sense of anything. His CB radio crackled with static. He grabbed the handset. "This is Trevor Walsh. Can anybody hear me? I'm lost in a field outside Harrisburg. I need help." The static resolved into a voice, flat, emotionless, familiar. "You signed the manifest. Transactions complete. You should go now." "Where? Where should I go?" "Away from Evergreen Storage. Away from 4700 Old Mill Road. Away from the spaces between." "What is this place?" "A warehouse. We store things. Things that don't belong in the regular world. Things that slip through the cracks. Sometimes people slip through too. The field is the margin, the space around the storage. You're in the margin now." "How do I get out?" "The same way you got in. Stop looking for it. The warehouse only exists when you look for it. The field only traps you when you acknowledge it. Stop searching. Stop asking. Just drive." The static returned. Trevor sat in his truck, hands shaking. "Stop looking for it. Just drive." He started the engine. It turned over immediately like no time had passed. He put the truck in gear and drove, not toward any particular landmark, not following any road. Just driving across the field, ignoring the impossible geography, refusing to think about it. The field flowed past his windows like water. He didn't look for his route, didn't try to navigate. Just drove straight ahead with his eyes on the horizon. Old Mill Road appeared suddenly, his truck bumping onto asphalt. Trevor gasped, hitting the brakes. He was back on the road, facing the direction he'd come from. His watch showed 12:30 p.m. 15 minutes since he'd first arrived. He looked back. The field stretched behind him, empty and normal. No warehouse, no gray jumpsuited men. Nothing. Trevor drove away, his speedometer creeping toward 80. He delivered the shelving units as unable to locate address and ate the penalty. He never spoke about what happened. But sometimes when he's driving through rural areas, he sees fields that look a little too empty, a little too vast. And if he stares too long, he sometimes sees structures that shouldn't be there. Warehouses, factories, buildings that phase in and out of reality. He never looks twice. He just drives, eyes forward, refusing to acknowledge the spaces between. Because he knows now that there are places in America that exist in the margins, storage facilities for things that don't fit in the regular world. And once you sign the manifest, once you acknowledge their existence, you become inventory. Just another thing to be stored in the endless field, walking forever in the gray light, waiting for delivery that never comes. Story 5. The CB Radio Prophecy. Daniel Foster considered himself lucky. In 10 years of long-haul trucking, he'd avoided major accidents, serious injuries, and the crushing loneliness that destroyed so many drivers. He credited a lot of that luck to the CB radio community, the drivers who kept the channels alive with chatter, warnings about police speed traps, weather updates, and occasional stupid jokes that made the miles pass easier. Daniel's CB handle was Desert Fox, and he was a fixture on Channel 19, the main trucker channel. He ran the southern routes mostly, Texas to California and back, and had built up a network of regular voices he'd hear on repeat journeys. Midnight Rider out of Phoenix, Texas Thunder who hauled oil field equipment, Sundown Sally who ran produce from the Imperial Valley. They were friends, in the strange, disconnected way CB buddies were friends. In mid-November, Daniel was hauling electronics from El Paso to Los Angeles. He'd left around 8 p.m., planning to drive through the night and hit LA by morning. The weather was perfect, clear skies, no wind, temperatures in the low 60s. Good driving conditions. Around midnight, passing through the empty stretch of Arizona desert west of Tucson, Daniel's CB radio crackled to life. "Breaker, breaker, this is Prophet calling to Desert Fox. You out there, Fox?" Daniel frowned. He didn't recognize the handle Prophet, and the voice was strange, young-sounding, almost childlike, with an odd echo like it was coming from inside a tunnel. "This is Desert Fox. Who's this?" "This is Prophet. I've got a message for you, Desert Fox. You need to pull over at mile marker 87. Right now, don't ask questions, just pull over." Daniel checked his location. Mile marker 87 was about 3 miles ahead. Who is this? How do you know where I am? Because I can see you. I can see all of you. Midnight Rider, Texas Thunder, Sundown Sally, Highway King, Big Rig Betty, all of you. I can see the paths you're driving, and I can see what's coming. A chill ran down Daniel's spine. What's coming? Mile marker 87, pull over, you have 2 minutes. The radio went silent. Daniel's hands tightened on the wheel. This was probably a prank. Someone with a directional antenna tracking his truck somehow, trying to scare him. But something about the voice, about the certainty in it, made him nervous. Mile marker 85 passed, then 86. Daniel made a decision. He pulled onto the shoulder at mile marker 87, just past it, and put on his flashers. He sat there, engine idling, waiting. Nothing happened. The highway stretched empty in both directions, no other vehicles visible. "All right, Prophet," Daniel said into his CB. "I'm here. Now what?" No response. Static. Daniel was about to pull back onto the highway when headlights appeared in his rearview mirror. A car was approaching fast, too fast. It was swerving slightly, drifting between lanes. Daniel watched as the car rocketed past his truck, easily doing 90. Half a mile ahead, the car suddenly jerked to the left, overcorrecting, and flipped. It rolled multiple times before coming to rest upside down in the median. "Jesus Christ," Daniel breathed. He grabbed his emergency kit and called 911, then ran toward the wreck. The driver was unconscious but alive, bleeding from a head wound. Daniel smelled alcohol, saw empty beer cans in the car. The man had been driving drunk. Police and paramedics arrived quickly. While giving his statement, Daniel mentioned the CB warning. The officer raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. Back in his truck, Daniel tried calling out on the CB. "Prophet, you there? That what you were warning me about?" The voice crackled back immediately. "Yes. If you'd been at that spot when he lost control, he would have hit you head on. You would have died, Desert Fox. Your tank would have ruptured. Fire, you would have burned." Daniel felt sick. "How did you know?" "I told you. I can see the paths. I can see the accidents before they happen. Not all of them, just the ones involving drivers on the CB. You're all connected. The radio waves create patterns and I can read them." "That's impossible." "You're alive because of me. Is that impossible?" Daniel didn't have an answer. He drove on, shaken, eventually making LA without further incident. He told a few other drivers about it at a truck stop, but they laughed it off. Coincidence? Lucky guess. 3 days later, Daniel was heading back east, somewhere in West Texas. His CB had been quiet most of the night. Then, around 3 a.m., Prophet's voice returned. "Big Rig Betty. Betty, if you're listening, you need to stop right now. Don't go any further." A woman's voice responded. Daniel knew Betty, a veteran driver who hauled livestock. "This is Betty. Who's this?" "Prophet, Betty, there's a bridge ahead of you, 3 miles. The support structure is compromised. Heavy rains last week. If you cross it with your current load, it will collapse." Betty laughed nervously. "Bridges get inspected regularly. It's fine." "It's not fine. They missed it. The damage is hidden. Cross that bridge and you die, Betty. 30-foot drop into a river. Your truck will sink in 4 minutes. You won't get out in time." Silence. Then Betty's voice, tight with fear. "How do you know my load weight?" "I can see it. I can see everything about you right now. You're hauling cattle, 42 head. Your truck weighs 63,000 pounds fully loaded. The bridge is rated for 40 tons, but the eastern support column has a fracture. Call the state highway department. Tell them to inspect the bridge on Route 285, mile marker 143. They'll find it." Daniel listened, fascinated and horrified. Other drivers chimed in, some laughing, some telling Betty to ignore the prank, but Betty called it in. 2 hours later, a different voice came on the CB, a state trooper. "To the driver who called in the bridge warning, you were right. We found significant structural damage. Bridge is closed for repairs. You may have saved lives." The CB erupted with chatter. Everyone wanted to know who Prophet was. Over the next weeks, Prophet became a legend on the CB channels. The voice would appear randomly, always with warnings. "Texas Thunder, you've got a tire ready to blow. Left rear outer, pull over and check it. Thunder checked. The tire had a bulge that would have exploded at highway speed. Midnight rider, there's a wrong way driver ahead. Take the next exit. Rider took the exit, and 3 minutes later, a drunk driver going the wrong direction on the interstate caused a multi-car pileup. Prophet was never wrong. The warnings were always accurate, always life-saving, but the voice was also disturbing. It knew things it shouldn't, personal things. It knew about Daniel's daughter's college graduation coming up. It knew about Betty's diabetes medication. It knew about Thunder's gambling debts. How do you know this stuff? Daniel demanded one night. The CB connects you. Your voices carry more than words. They carry your lives, your thoughts, your futures. I'm just reading what's already there. What are you? Some kind of AI, a psychic? I'm someone who died on this highway 23 years ago. 18-wheeler jackknifed on I-10. I was in a car with my family. We didn't make it. Daniel felt his blood run cold. You're a ghost. I'm whatever's left, my consciousness maybe. I'm trapped in the CB frequencies. I hear all of you, see all of you. And sometimes I can see what's coming, the accidents, the disasters. So I warn you, I try to save you. It's all I can do. It's your real name. I don't remember anymore. I've been Prophet for so long. That's all I am now. The warnings continued for months. Prophet became an accepted part of the CB culture. Drivers would call out for guidance, and sometimes Prophet would respond, sometimes not. But in March, something changed. Prophet's voice came through one night, different, strained, frightened. Something's wrong. The patterns are changing. I can't see clearly anymore. The paths are tangling. What do you mean? Daniel asked. Was in New Mexico, heading east. There's something else here now in the frequencies. Something hungry. It's been listening to me, learning, and now it's starting to speak. A new voice cut in deep, distorted, wrong. Hello, little prophet. Hello, little drivers. The ghost has been keeping you safe, but I've been waiting, learning, and now I know how to reach you. Multiple drivers started talking at once, confused and frightened. The new voice laughed, a sound like grinding metal. I'm what lives in the static. The empty spaces between channels. I've existed here longer than your roads, longer than your machines. The ghost child thought it could use my domain to help you, but every warning it gave made you trust the radio more, made you depend on it, and now you're mine. Turn off your radios, Prophet screamed. Everyone, turn them off now. Daniel reached for his CB, but before he could switch it off, the voice spoke directly to him. Desert Fox, Daniel Foster, your daughter graduates next month. Will she graduate? Or will you fall asleep at the wheel tonight, crash through the median barrier, burn like you were supposed to burn before? Daniel's hands shook. No. Every warning the prophet gave, I can reverse. Every life saved, I can claim. You owe me, all of you. The ghost stole you from me, but I'm patient. I'm always here in every radio, every frequency, waiting. Prophet's voice cut back in, weak. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I thought I was alone here. I didn't know it was listening. Static consumed everything. When it cleared, both voices were gone. Daniel pulled over and ripped his CB radio out of the dashboard, throwing it out onto the highway. Other drivers did the same over the next days. Channel 19, once full of constant chatter, went silent, but Daniel still hears them sometimes. When he drives at night, when the cabin is quiet, he hears whispers from the disconnected radio mount. Prophet's voice trying to warn him. And that other voice, the hungry one, promising accidents and death. He drives in silence now, like most truckers do these days. The CB culture died that March. Everyone remembers why, though nobody talks about it. They just drive in silence, watching the road, jumping at every sound that might be a voice in the static. And sometimes, on empty highways late at night, your radio will turn on by itself. You'll hear warnings, prophets still trying to help, still trying to save lives. But you'll also hear the other voice, the hungry one, making different promises. Most drivers don't listen anymore. They pull over and rip out their radios, choosing ignorance over the danger of knowing. But a few still keep their CBs active, still listen to the warnings, still trust Prophet's voice. Daniel isn't one of them. He drives in silence, and he's had 3 close calls since March. Near misses that might not have been near misses if he'd heard a warning. But he can't bring himself to plug the radio back in, because he remembers that voice, the hungry one, and he knows it's still waiting, still listening, still promising to collect the lives that prophet saved. The CB radio sits in his storage unit. Sometimes he thinks about reinstalling it, but then he remembers some connections are too dangerous to maintain, some voices should never be answered, and some prophecies are better left unheard. Story 6. The Fog Town. Patricia Daniels ran dedicated routes for Walmart, shuttling goods between distribution centers in the Midwest. It was steady work, same roads, same schedules, same stops. After 14 years, Patricia could drive her route half asleep. Springfield, Illinois to Des Moines, Iowa and back 3 times a week every week. She knew every town along the way: Pittsfield, Barry, Hull, Hannibal, Monroe City. Each one familiar, memorized, part of the routine. In September, something changed. Patricia left Springfield around midnight, pulling her usual load of mixed merchandise. The weather was clear, temperature comfortable, standard run. She'd be in Des Moines by 8 a.m., unload, grab breakfast, sleep a few hours in the Walmart parking lot, then head back. She passed through Pittsfield around 1 a.m., the small town dark and quiet. Barry came next, then Hull. Everything normal. Around 2:15 a.m. between Hull and Hannibal, Patricia hit fog. It appeared suddenly, rolling across Highway 36 like a living thing. One moment, clear road. The next, thick white fog reducing visibility to maybe 20 feet. Patricia slowed to 45, turned on her fog lights and kept going. Fog wasn't unusual. They were following the Mississippi River, and river fog could get dense. But this fog was different, thicker, almost opaque. Patricia could barely see the white road lines. Her headlights reflected back at her, creating a disorienting glow. She considered pulling over to wait it out, but the shoulder was narrow and dangerous. Better to keep moving slowly. After about 15 minutes of crawling through the fog, lights appeared ahead. Streetlights, she thought at first, but as she got closer, she realized it was a town. Buildings lined both sides of the highway, windows lit with warm yellow light. A gas station, a diner, a few shops. Patricia frowned. There was no town between Hull and Hannibal. She knew this route. It was farmland and small residential areas, nothing substantial enough to have commercial buildings. But here it was, a small town emerging from the fog, population sign reading, "Welcome to Meridian Pop." 847. Meridian. Patricia had never heard of it. Her fuel gauge showed half tank, but something made her pull into the gas station. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the instinct that something was wrong. The station was old-fashioned, twin pumps with analog displays, a small building with a peaked roof. A sign advertised gas for $1.87 per gallon. Patricia blinked. Gas hadn't been under $2 in years. She parked and climbed out. The fog pressed close, muffling sounds. The air smelled strange, not like fog should smell. It had a metallic tang like old coins. The station's door had a bell that jingled when she entered. Inside, the place looked like something from the 1980s. Wood paneling, linoleum floor, a register that was mechanical, not digital. Shelves stocked with products Patricia didn't recognize, candy bars and chips with logos that looked almost right but weren't. Behind the counter sat a young man, maybe 25, reading a paperback novel. He looked up and smiled. "Help you. Just wanted to ask about this town," Patricia said. "I've driven this route for 14 years. I've never seen Meridian before." The man's smile didn't waver. "You've been driving past it for 14 years. Most people do. We're easy to miss." "How can I miss an entire town? The fog, it hides us usually. But sometimes when conditions are right, the fog opens up, lets people in. You're lucky most drivers go right past without ever seeing us." Patricia felt her skin prickle. "What do you mean the fog hides you?" "Exactly what I said. Meridian exists in the fog, has since 1952. There was an accident, chemical plant explosion. Fog came after that, never left, and we're still here in it, living our lives. Most of the time we're invisible to the outside world, but occasionally the fog wants company, so it opens up, lets someone through." That's insane, the man shrugged. Is it, you're here, aren't you? You saw the town, drove in, you're talking to me, seems pretty real. Patricia backed toward the door. I need to go. You can try, but the fog doesn't usually let people leave until morning. You're here for the night now. Patricia ran back to her truck. She climbed in, started the engine, and pulled back onto the highway. The fog was thicker than ever, a solid white wall. She drove slowly, looking for the edge of town for the fog to thin out. But the town seemed to go on forever. More buildings, more streetlights. She passed a school, a library, a town hall, all lit up, all looking occupied. She saw people walking on sidewalks, normal-looking people in normal clothes, going about their business at 2:30 in the morning. Patricia's GPS had stopped working. The screen showed gray void. Her phone had no signal. Her truck's odometer kept ticking. She'd driven at least 5 miles through this town, but Meridian kept going. Finally, she pulled over in front of the diner. She was shaking, her mind trying to reject what was happening but unable to deny it. The diner was called the Fogbound, and through its windows, Patricia could see people eating, talking, living. She went inside. The interior was warm, comfortable, with red vinyl booths and a long counter. A waitress in a retro uniform, powder blue dress, white apron, approached with a coffee pot. Sit anywhere, honey. Coffee. Patricia sat. Please. The waitress poured. You're new, you've got the look. What look? Confused, scared. People from outside always have that look when they first come through the fog. The waitress smiled kindly. It's okay. You're safe here. The fog takes care of us. I don't understand what's happening. Meridian used to be a regular town. Then the chemical plant exploded in 1952. The chemicals reacted with moisture in the air, created this permanent fog bank. But something else happened too, something nobody expected. The fog became aware. It sealed us off from the rest of the world. We've been here ever since, living in this pocket of time. Time? What year do you think this is? 1952. August 7th, 1952. It's always August 7th here. The day after the explosion. We wake up, live the day, go to sleep, wake up to August 7th again. Patricia felt dizzy. That's 70 years ago. To you maybe, to us it's been one long day, repeating. We don't age, don't change, we just are. How do you know about the outside world then? How do you know people like me drive through? The fog lets us remember. When someone comes through, we remember them. It's the only thing that changes here, our memories of visitors. We've had hundreds over the years. Some stay for a night, some stay forever. I'm leaving. You can't, not until the fog releases you, usually dawn when the sun burns it off. Then the town disappears again and you'll be back on Highway 36 like nothing happened. Patricia spent the night in the diner, too scared to sleep. The residents were friendly but disturbing. They talked about 1952 like it was yesterday, because to them it was. They discussed radio programs Patricia had never heard of, worried about news events that were ancient history. A man in his 30s sat across from Patricia around 4 a.m. You're not the first trucker to come through. Had a driver last month, or maybe it was last year, hard to tell, who tried to force his way out. Drove straight into the fog at full speed. The fog got angry. He never made it out. His truck S at the edge of town, driver still inside, frozen mid-scream. The fog doesn't like being defied. You're telling me to just wait. I'm telling you to accept. The fog decides, you don't. As the hours passed, Patricia walked around Meridian. It was a complete town, houses, churches, businesses, a park. Everything frozen in 1952. The people were polite, almost aggressively normal, going through their daily routines. But there was something off about them, a flatness in their eyes, a lack of genuine emotion. They were alive, but not quite living. Copies of people trapped in amber. Around 6 a.m., the waitress found Patricia. Sun's coming up, time for you to go. Patricia went back to her truck. The fog was thinning, turning from solid white to translucent gray. The town was starting to fade, buildings becoming transparent. She started the engine and drove. The fog retreated before her, and suddenly she was through it, back on Highway 36. Normal countryside surrounded her. Her GPS flickered back to life, showing her location as Highway 36 between Hull and Hannibal. Her phone signal returned. Patricia pulled over, breathing hard. She checked the time, 2:32 a.m. She'd been in the fog town for hours, but only 2 minutes had passed in the real world. She drove on to Des Moines, completed her delivery, but said nothing about Meridian. Who would believe her? 3 days later, on her return route, Patricia watched carefully as she approached the area where Meridian had appeared. No fog, just normal road, normal darkness. She drove past and kept going. But twice a month after that, Patricia encountered the fog. It would appear on her route, always in the same area, always thick and white and wrong. And every time she'd see Meridian emerge from it. The same town, the same people, the same August 7th, 1952. After the fourth time, Patricia started stopping. She'd have coffee at the diner, talk to the residents. They remembered her, greeted her like an old friend. "Back again," the waitress would say. "We were hoping you'd visit." The man from the gas station told her stories about other frequent visitors, drivers who'd come through the fog dozens of times. Some eventually stopped leaving. They'd park their trucks, walk into Meridian and stay. Join the loop. Live August 7th, 1952, forever. Why would anyone do that? Patricia asked. Because out there, the man gestured toward the fog, toward the real world, things change, people age, people die. Things go wrong. Here nothing changes, nothing goes wrong. It's the same safe day forever. For some people, that's paradise. Patricia started to understand. The residents weren't prisoners, they were volunteers. They'd chosen this. Chosen safety over change, repetition over uncertainty. On her 10th visit, the waitress made an offer. "You could stay, Patricia. You're here often enough. The fog likes you. It keeps bringing you back. Maybe that means you're meant to be here." Patricia looked around the diner, at the people living their infinite loop, at the town that never changed. Part of her was tempted. Life outside was hard, her ex-husband, her grown kids who never called, the endless driving, the loneliness. Here she'd be welcomed, safe. Nothing would ever hurt her again because nothing would ever happen. "No," Patricia said. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because this isn't life, it's preservation, and I'm not ready to be preserved." The waitress smiled sadly. "Then drive carefully, the fog will keep calling. Eventually everyone says yes." Patricia finished her coffee and left. The fog released her as it always did. But every time she drives Highway 36, she watches for it. The fog, the town, the offer of eternal August 7th. And every time it gets a little harder to say no. A little harder to keep driving into the uncertain, changing world outside. Because Meridian is always there, waiting in the fog. Population 847. And one day, Patricia knows, it might become 848. Story 7. The Mirror Highway. Keith Lawson specialized in overnight expedited freight, the kind of deliveries that paid premium rates for speed. In 9 years of running emergency shipments, Keith had driven every major highway on the East Coast, often at night, often in bad weather, always in a hurry. He'd heard stories about Route 219 in West Virginia, the strange sightings, the accidents, the persistent fog. But Keith didn't put much stock in ghost stories. He'd driven hundreds of supposedly haunted roads without incident. In late October, Keith picked up an emergency shipment in Charleston, West Virginia, medical equipment needed in Morgantown by morning. The fastest route was Route 119 to I-79, but a major accident had I-79 closed. His dispatcher rerouted him through back roads, including a long stretch of Route 219 through the mountains. Keith left Charleston around 11 p.m. The weather was clear but cold, with frost warnings. The roads would be tricky but manageable. Route 219 wound through the Allegheny Mountains, a narrow 2-lane road that climbed and descended through thick forest. No streetlights, no houses, just endless trees and darkness. Keith's headlights carved a tunnel through the night, and he pushed his truck as fast as the winding road allowed. Around 1 a.m., halfway through the mountain section, Keith noticed something odd. His headlights were reflecting strangely, Not off the trees or road signs, but off something else. Something that moved parallel to him. He looked to his left and saw another truck, identical to his. Same make, model, color, same company logos, same trailer configuration, driving beside him, matching his speed exactly. Keith's heart skipped. The road was narrow, barely wide enough for two vehicles to pass. There was no way another truck could be driving beside him. But there it was, clear as day in his peripheral vision. He looked directly at it. Empty driver's seat. The truck was driving itself, matching his every movement. Keith hit the brakes. The other truck braked too, staying perfectly synchronized. He accelerated, it accelerated. He turned on his headlights, its headlights turned on. He grabbed his CB radio. Breaker, breaker, anybody on Route 219? I've got a situation here. Static. Then a voice, his own voice, came back. Breaker, breaker, anybody on Route 219? I've got a situation here. Keith dropped the handset. The words had come from the other truck's CB, echoing his exactly. He tried his phone. No signal, not unusual in the mountains. But when he looked at the screen, his GPS showed something impossible. 2 dots on the map, both marked as his truck, both moving in parallel. The mirror truck stayed with him for miles. Keith tried everything, speeding up, slowing down, stopping completely. The mirror matched him perfectly. When he stopped, it stopped. When he turned on his turn signal, its signal blinked in sync. But the mirror truck wasn't just beside him, it was on its own road. Keith could see it clearly now, 2 highways running side by side, separated by maybe 20 feet of space. One was Route 219, where Keith drove. The other was identical but shouldn't exist. There was no parallel road here, just forest. Keith pulled over and got out. The mirror truck pulled over too. Keith walked toward it, crossing the narrow strip of grass between the highways. As he got closer, the mirror truck became clearer and wrong. It wasn't quite identical after all. The logo on the door was reversed, like text in a mirror. The license plate read backward. The truck was a perfect reflection, not a copy. Keith reached out to touch it. His hand passed through solid metal, feeling real and cold. He walked around to the driver's side. Through the window, he could see the cab empty but with the engine running, dashboard lights on, radio playing softly. Movement caught his eye. On the mirror highway's shoulder, there was another figure, a person walking toward him. As the person got closer, Keith's blood ran cold. It was him. Another Keith, identical, wearing the same clothes, same expression of confusion. The 2 Keiths stared at each other, separated by the 20 feet between highways. Mirror Keith spoke, his voice faint but audible. "What is this?" "Where am I?" Keith's voice shook. "Route 219, West Virginia. Who are you?" "I'm Keith Lawson. I'm hauling medical equipment to Morgantown. I saw another truck, a mirror of mine, and I—" Mirror Keith stopped, realization dawning. "You're the mirror." "No, you're the mirror. I'm real. You're the reflection." They argued, both insisting they were real, both certain the other was wrong. Keith pulled out his phone to prove his existence. Delivery documents, photos, messages. Mirror Keith did the same, showing identical documents, identical photos, identical messages. Everything was the same, or rather, everything was mirrored. "This doesn't make sense," Keith said. "You can't be real." "Then how am I talking to you? How am I thinking?" Keith didn't have an answer. They both walked back to their respective trucks, watching each other warily. Keith climbed into his cab. Mirror Keith did the same. Keith started driving. Mirror Keith drove too, the trucks moving in perfect synchronization. The mirror highway stretched ahead, identical to Route 219 but reversed. Signs were backward, mile markers counted down instead of up. After 10 miles, more mirror vehicles appeared. A car driving south in the opposite direction, except it was on the mirror highway, not Keith's highway. Then a motorcycle. Then another truck. Keith realized with horror, the mirror highway had its own traffic, its own vehicles, its own world. And it was running parallel to his, separated by just 20 feet of reality. He tried to contact Mirror Keith again. "Can you see other vehicles on your road?" Mirror Keith's voice came through the CB. "Yes, normal traffic, can you?" I can see my traffic and yours, both highways. Same here, we can see both worlds. The implications hit Keith hard. If both highways were real, if both had traffic, then somewhere there were two versions of every road, every place, every person. A mirror world running alongside the real one. How do we fix this? Keith asked. Maybe we don't, Mirror Keith replied. Maybe we've always existed side by side. Maybe you just never saw me before, never saw the mirror highway. But why now? Why Route 219? Maybe the mountains. Maybe the fold in the geography creates a fold in reality, lets us see across. They drove in silence for a while, both processing. Keith watched the mirror highway carefully. It wasn't quite identical. Some trees were in different positions, some curves were sharper or gentler. The worlds were close but not perfect reflections. Then Keith noticed something disturbing. On the mirror highway ahead there was an accident. A car had gone off the road, smashed into a tree. Emergency lights flashed, police, ambulance, fire trucks. But on Keith's highway there was no accident. The road was clear. "Do you see that?" Keith asked. "The accident on your side." "What accident?" Mirror Keith responded. Keith described it. Mirror Keith was confused. He saw no accident, no emergency vehicles. Then Keith understood. The highways were showing different timelines, different possibilities. The accident had happened in one world but not the other. The mirror highway wasn't just a reflection, it was an alternate reality. "What if we cross over?" Keith asked. "What if I try to drive onto your highway?" "Don't," Mirror Keith said quickly. "I don't think that's a good idea." But Keith was already turning the wheel, steering toward the mirror highway. His truck crossed the grass strip, bumped onto the mirror highway's asphalt, and suddenly everything flipped. The world inverted like a reflection snapping into place. Keith was now on what had been the mirror highway, and his original highway had become the mirror. He looked to his right and saw his truck, his original truck, driving on the parallel road, driver's seat empty. "Keith, you there?" The voice on the CB wasn't Mirror Keith anymore. It was a different voice, desperate, frightened. "Who's this?" Keith asked. "My name is David Chen. I've been trapped on the mirror highway for 3 months. I crossed over just like you did, and I've been trying to get back ever since." Keith felt panic rising. "What do you mean, trapped?" "Every time I try to cross back, it flips again. I end up deeper in the mirrors. There are dozens of them, Keith. Dozens of parallel highways, each slightly different. I've been crossing and crossing, trying to find my way back to the real Route 219, but I don't know which one is real anymore." Keith looked around frantically. The road looked the same. The trees, the darkness, all the same, but subtle things were different. A road sign was slightly different color, a mile marker had different font. He tried crossing back, steering toward his original highway. The world flipped again. New voice on the CB. "Hello, is someone there?" "Please, I've been alone for so long." Keith kept crossing, kept flipping between highways. Each time the world inverted. Each time new voices appeared on the CB, other drivers trapped in the infinite mirrors, all trying to find their way back to reality. Some had been trapped for weeks, some for years. One voice claimed to have been lost since the 1970s, driving through mirrors for decades, never aging, never escaping. Keith stopped crossing and just drove, his hands shaking. He was lost now. Completely lost. He didn't know which highway was real, which were mirrors. They all looked the same. They all felt real. Hours passed, or minutes. Keith couldn't tell anymore. His watch kept running, but time felt wrong, elastic, inconsistent. He'd drive for what felt like an hour, and his watch would show 5 minutes. Or the reverse. Other trucks appeared on parallel highways, all identical to his, all with confused drivers trying to find their way home. They'd call to each other on CB, share theories, warn about dead-end mirrors that led nowhere. Finally, as dawn approached, Keith saw something different, a gap in the mirrors. One of the parallel highways simply ended, fading into fog. Beyond the fog, he could see a different road, one that looked less perfect, more worn, more real. He drove toward it, crossing one final time. The world flipped, and Keith was on Route 219, the real Route 219. He knew it instinctively. The road felt solid, genuine, not like the two perfect mirrors. His GPS flickered back to normal, showing one dot, one location. His CB crackled. "You made it out, lucky." It was Mirror Keith's voice, distant now, fading. "Most don't. Most stay lost in the mirrors forever. If you ever drive 219 again, don't look at the parallel roads. Don't acknowledge them. Once you see the mirrors, you can get trapped." Keith drove the rest of the route in silence, eventually reaching Morgantown and making his delivery. The sun was up, the world normal, but he never drove Route 219 again. And on other roads, other highways, he sometimes sees them, parallel roads running alongside his, mirror highways full of mirror traffic. He doesn't look, doesn't acknowledge them. He just drives, eyes forward, refusing to see the infinite reflections. Because he knows now, reality is thinner than we think. Mirror worlds run alongside ours, separated by nothing more than attention and accident. And once you cross over, once you enter the mirrors, finding your way back becomes nearly impossible. Keith delivered medical equipment that morning, but part of him wonders if he really made it back, or if he's still driving through mirrors, convinced this is the real world, while the real Keith remains trapped somewhere in the infinite parallel highways of Route 219. Story 8. The Last Truck Stop. Denise Warren had been driving for 26 years, longer than most veterans in the industry. She'd seen the golden age of trucking in the late 90s and watched it decline. Independent operators pushed out by corporations, truck stops closing, technology replacing the human element. But Denise persisted, running her own independent operation hauling freight across the northern plains. In early December, Denise was running a long haul from Billings, Montana to Fargo, North Dakota. The weather was deteriorating, a major winter storm system moving in from the Dakotas, promising heavy snow and dangerous conditions. Denise's plan was to make it as far as Dickinson, North Dakota before the storm hit, then hole up in a truck stop until it passed. She left Billings around 6 p.m. under clear skies but with the temperature dropping fast. The radio warned about the incoming storm, advising all motorists to seek shelter by midnight. Denise made good time across Montana, crossing into North Dakota around 10:30 p.m. The sky ahead looked ominous, thick black clouds lit occasionally by lightning, which was unusual for winter. Snow began falling, light at first, then heavier. By 11:15, Denise was fighting whiteout conditions. Visibility dropped to near zero, her headlights reflecting off solid white snow. The highway was disappearing under accumulation. She was still 30 miles from Dickinson, and she knew she wasn't going to make it. She grabbed her CB radio. "Breaker, breaker, this is Iron Lady looking for information. Any truck stops between here and Dickinson?" A voice responded immediately. "Iron Lady, this is the manager at North Star Truck Plaza. We're at mile marker 72, about 8 miles ahead of you. Come on in, we've got space." Denise felt relief wash over her. "Copy that." "On my way." Mile marker 72 appeared through the blowing snow. Denise took the exit, her truck sliding slightly on the icy ramp. At the bottom, bright lights glowed through the storm. A large truck stop with multiple fuel islands, a restaurant, and a sprawling parking area. The sign read, "North Star Truck Plaza Fuel, Food, Lodging." Denise pulled into a parking space, grateful to stop. The lot was about half full with other trucks, drivers smart enough to pull over. She shut down her engine, grabbed her overnight bag, and headed for the main building. Inside, the truck stop was like stepping back in time. The decor was vintage 70s, wood paneling, orange carpet, vinyl booths. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A lunch counter ran along one wall and trucking memorabilia covered the others. Old license plates, vintage trucking photographs, CB radios from decades past. A man stood behind the counter, late 50s, with a weathered face and friendly smile. "You made it, Denise, right? Come on in, get warm." Denise stamped snow off her boots. "Thanks for the guidance. I was worried I'd get stranded. We've been here a long time. We take care of drivers." He gestured to the restaurant area. Coffee's fresh, food's hot, showers are in the back if you need one, bunks upstairs if you want to sleep. Other drivers sat at booths and tables, eating, talking quietly. Denise didn't recognize any of them, but she nodded in greeting. They nodded back. She ordered coffee and a burger, settling into a booth. The coffee was good, strong and hot. The burger came quickly, cooked perfectly. Denise relaxed, watching snow pile up outside the windows. She made the right call stopping here. An older driver at the next booth leaned over. "First time at North Star?" "Yeah, I didn't know it was here. I usually stop in Dickinson." "North Star's easy to miss. Been here since the 60s. Family operation. Never franchised, never modernized. Just stayed the same." Denise looked around. The man was right. This place hadn't changed in decades. Even the menu was printed on paper, not digital boards. The prices were shockingly low: $1.95 for coffee, $8.50 for a full dinner. "They're barely making money at these prices," Denise said. The older driver smiled oddly. "They don't need money, not anymore." Before Denise could ask what he meant, a waitress appeared to refill her coffee. She was young, maybe 25, wearing a powder blue uniform with North Star embroidered on the chest. Her name tag said Linda. "Everything okay?" Linda asked. "Great, thanks. Can I ask how long this place has been here?" "Since 1967. My grandfather opened it. Families run it ever since." "It's a great spot. Saved me tonight." Linda smiled. "That's what we do, save drivers. Give them a safe place when the weather turns bad." Denise finished her meal and paid. The bill was $12.50, absurdly cheap. She asked about a bunk. The manager led her upstairs to a dormitory-style setup with individual bunks separated by curtains. Clean, simple, functional. Pick any bunk. Restrooms at the end of the hall. Breakfast starts at 6 a.m. Denise chose a bunk, changed, and lay down. The building was quiet except for the wind outside and occasional footsteps. She fell asleep quickly, exhausted from the drive. She woke to silence, complete silence. No wind, no storm sounds, nothing. Denise checked her phone, 3:47 a.m. She pulled back the curtain and looked around the dormitory. Every bunk was occupied, other drivers sleeping soundly, but something felt wrong. The air was too still, too quiet. She got dressed and went downstairs. The restaurant was empty except for Linda behind the counter wiping down surfaces. "Couldn't sleep?" Linda asked. The storm stopped. "Not yet, still snowing, but it's quiet up here, good insulation." Denise walked to the windows. Outside was complete darkness, not night darkness, but absolute black. No parking lot lights visible, no other trucks, just void. "What happened to the lights?" Denise asked. "Power's fine, look." Linda gestured to the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the coffee maker burbling. "I mean outside, the parking lot lights." Linda came to the window and looked out. "Huh, that's strange. Must be the storm. Sometimes snow gets so thick it blocks everything." But Denise knew that wasn't right. Snow doesn't create that kind of darkness. She tried the door, locked. "Why is the door locked?" "For safety. During storms, we lock up at midnight. Don't want anyone wandering outside and getting lost in the snow." "I need to check on my truck." "In this storm, it'll still be there in the morning. Come on, have some coffee. You'll feel better." Denise felt panic rising. She pulled on the door harder. Wouldn't budge, not like it was locked, but like it was part of the wall, sealed. "Let me out," Denise demanded. Linda's smile didn't change. "You don't want to go out there, trust me." Denise ran to another door, the one leading to the fuel island area, also locked or sealed. She went back to the main windows and pressed her face against the glass, trying to see anything in the darkness. Movement. Something was moving out there, barely visible. Large shapes, bigger than trucks, shifting in the void. "What is that?" Denise whispered. Linda was beside her now, looking out. "The storm, it's hungry tonight. Storms aren't alive. This one is, this one always is. That's why North Star exists, to keep drivers safe from it." Denise backed away. "What are you talking about?" The other drivers had come downstairs, standing in a semicircle behind her. The manager appeared from the back room, all of them watching her with that same calm, friendly expression. The manager spoke. North Star Truck Plaza was built in 1967, like Linda said. My father built it on this spot specifically. The Native Americans warned him, said this was a thin place where storms took on life, where travelers disappeared, but my father was stubborn. He built the truck stop anyway, but he built it special. Protections woven into the foundation, symbols in the walls. He made a deal with the storm, we'd give it shelter, and it would spare the travelers inside. "You're insane," Denise said. "You saw what's outside. That's not snow, that's the storm entity. It lives in the winter weather, feeds on travelers caught in blizzards. My father trapped it here, contained it. As long as North Star stands, the storm stays focused here instead of roaming the highways taking anyone it wants. We save hundreds of drivers every winter by trapping them here, only until morning. When dawn comes, the storm retreats. Then you can leave. And if I try to leave now?" Manager gestured to the window. "The storm will take you. You'll become part of it. We've seen it happen. Drivers who didn't believe, who forced the doors open. They walk out into the darkness and they're consumed, gone, part of the storm forever." Denise looked at the other drivers. "You all knew about this." The older driver from earlier nodded. "We stop here every winter because it's safe. The storm knows it can't have us if we're inside North Star. So we wait out the night and in the morning we leave. The storm gets nothing." "Your father made a deal with a monster," Denise said to the manager. "My father saved lives. Before North Star, dozens of drivers disappeared every winter on this stretch of highway. After North Star, the disappearances stopped. The storm got contained. It's not a perfect solution, but it's better than the alternative." Denise spent the rest of the night in the restaurant, watching the darkness outside. Occasionally, shapes pressed against the windows, vast, undefined, hungry. The glass rattled but held. The other drivers went back to sleep. Linda kept the coffee flowing. The manager sat quietly, reading a newspaper from 1987 like time had stopped for him decades ago. Around 5 a.m., gray light began to filter through the windows. The darkness retreated and gradually the parking lot became visible. Denise's truck sat where she'd left it, covered in snow but intact. Other trucks were scattered around the lot. Everything looked normal. "You can leave now," the manager said. "The storm's dormant during the day." Denise didn't need to be told twice. She grabbed her bag and went to her truck. The parking lot was empty of people, all the other drivers already gone or still sleeping. The truck started fine and Denise pulled back onto the highway. The storm had passed, leaving clear roads and bright morning sun. Denise drove to Dickinson, completed her delivery, and tried to put North Star out of her mind. But 3 weeks later, driving the same route, another storm hit. And despite herself, despite her fear, Denise found herself pulling into North Star Truck Plaza, because where else could she go? The storm was coming and North Star was the only shelter. Linda greeted her with that same smile. "Welcome back." Denise has stopped there 14 times now, every winter when storms roll through. She doesn't like it, but she's alive. And every time she leaves in the morning, she sees the news reports. Drivers found frozen in their trucks just miles away, caught in blizzards that seem to come from nowhere. North Star saves lives, but the price is spending the night trapped with the storm outside, pressing against the walls, hungry and waiting. The price is knowing that something unnatural has been contained here, and that containment is the only thing standing between drivers and disappearance. Denise tells other drivers about North Star now, warning them or preparing them. She's not sure which, because when the winter storms come to that stretch of North Dakota highway, you have two choices: shelter in the trapped truck stop and spend the night with the contained storm, or take your chances on the road. Most drivers choose North Star, because a night of fear is better than becoming part of the storm forever. And the North Star Truck Plaza continues to stand, a beacon in winter darkness, a trap and a salvation both, kept in business not by profit but by necessity. Because some monsters can't be killed. They can only be contained, and someone has to feed them shelter season after season so they don't feed on us. Story 9. The Delivery to Nowhere. Martin Reeves worked for a specialty freight company that handled unusual shipments, medical samples, radioactive materials, government contracts. In 11 years, Martin had delivered to military bases, research facilities, and secure locations most people didn't know existed. He was cleared for sensitive cargo and asked no questions. In March, Martin received an unusual assignment: pick up a sealed container in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and deliver it to coordinates in the Nevada desert. No address, just GPS coordinates: 37, 2,431 degrees N, 115, 7,930 degrees W. Martin recognized the general area, near Groom Lake, the restricted military zone where Area 51 supposedly existed. He delivered near there before to outlying research facilities. This was probably similar. The pickup was standard, a reinforced steel container about 4 feet on each side, surprisingly light. The manifest listed the contents as classified materials and required his signature in 3 places. The delivery deadline was tight: pickup at 2 p.m., delivery by midnight. Martin loaded the container and headed out. The route took him north through Arizona, then west into Nevada. As evening fell, he left the interstate and headed into the desert on increasingly rough roads. His GPS led him onto a dirt road that wasn't on any map. The coordinates were still 60 miles away, deep in restricted airspace. Martin had a special permit that supposedly allowed him access, but he'd never actually delivered this far into the restricted zone. The desert stretched endless and empty, marked only by scrub brush and distant mountains. Full moon provided decent visibility. Martin's truck kicked up dust as he drove, the road getting progressively worse. Around 10 p.m., his GPS announced, "Approaching destination." Martin slowed, looking around. There was nothing. No buildings, no structures, no indication anyone had ever been here. Just flat desert in all directions. His GPS insisted, "You have arrived at your destination." Martin stopped. According to his instructions, he was supposed to unload the container and leave it at the coordinates. Someone would retrieve it. He climbed out, checking his location on his phone. It matched. This was the spot. Martin opened his trailer and used the lift gate to lower the container to the ground. It sat in the middle of nowhere, unremarkable and unexplained. His job done, Martin climbed back in his truck to leave. His GPS showed the route back. But when he put the truck in gear and started driving, something strange happened. The landscape didn't change. He drove for 10 minutes, but the same rock formations, the same Joshua trees, the same terrain kept repeating. His odometer showed miles accumulating, but he wasn't getting anywhere. Martin stopped and checked his GPS. It showed him in a different location, 5 miles from where he'd started. But when he looked around, everything looked identical to the delivery spot. He kept driving. Same result. The landscape looped, repeating endlessly. His GPS insisted he was making progress, but visually nothing changed. After 2 hours of this, Martin stopped and got out. He walked away from the truck, looking for any variation in the terrain. About 100 yards out, he found something, a perfect circle drawn in the dirt, about 20 feet in diameter. Inside the circle, the ground was darker, as if burned or chemically treated. Martin returned to his truck and tried the radio. Only static. His cell phone had no signal expected in the deep desert. He tried his satellite phone, which should work anywhere. It connected but produced only strange tones, like a modem from the 1990s. As midnight approached, lights appeared in the sky. Not planes, these moved wrong, too fast and too erratic. They descended toward the horizon, disappearing behind distant mountains. Martin decided to wait until morning. Maybe in daylight he could navigate out. He tried to sleep in his cab, but around 2 a.m. he was awakened by sound. A low-frequency hum that he felt more than heard, vibrating through his whole body. He looked out his windshield and saw the container. It was open. He'd locked it, he was certain. But now the sides had unfolded like flower petals, revealing the interior. Empty. Whatever had been inside was gone. Martin's instincts screamed at him to stay in the truck, but he needed to understand what was happening. He grabbed his flashlight and climbed out. The container sat in the center of that burned circle he'd found earlier. Had it been there before? Martin couldn't remember. His memories of the last few hours felt slippery, uncertain. He approached the container carefully. The interior was lined with some kind of metallic foam molded to hold something specific, something roughly human-shaped. An imprint like a body had been inside. Delivery successful. A voice behind him. Martin spun around. A man stood 10 feet away, wearing a dark suit that looked wrong in the desert setting. His face was ordinary but hard to focus on, like Martin's eyes couldn't quite hold the details. "Who are you?" Martin demanded. "Recovery team, you delivered the package. We're here to retrieve it." "What was in the container? Classified." "Where am I? Why can't I leave?" The man tilted his head at an odd angle. "You're in a null zone, a geographic anomaly. Time and space function differently here. You were never supposed to notice. Most delivery drivers don't. They drop the package, drive away, and never realize they spent 6 hours going in circles before the zone released them." "Released them?" "The zone decides when you can leave, usually after the package is retrieved, sometimes longer if there are complications." Martin felt his fear spike. "What kind of complications?" "Occasionally, drivers see too much, understand too much. When that happens, we have to make adjustments." "Adjustments?" "Memory modification or permanent relocation to a secure facility, depending on severity." Martin backed toward his truck. "I didn't see anything. I'm just a delivery driver doing my job." "You saw the container open. You saw the imprint inside. You recognized what it suggested." The man moved closer, his movements too smooth, not quite human. "That's problematic." "I don't know what it suggested. I don't understand any of this." "You're thinking it was a body. Maybe extraterrestrial, maybe something else classified, and you're right to think that." The man was very close now. "This location has been used for decades. We receive items from various sources. Items that need to be kept away from population centers. Items that are dangerous or valuable or both." Martin's hand found his truck door. "I'm leaving." "Not yet. The zone hasn't released you." "Watch me." Martin climbed into his truck, started the engine, and hit the gas. The truck lurched forward, tires spinning in the dirt. The landscape blurred and repeated. Desert, Joshua trees, rocks, same. Martin drove for 20 minutes, his speedometer showing 60 miles per hour, but the terrain never changed. He tried different directions, north, south, east, west. Every direction produced the same result. The null zone had him trapped. When he finally stopped, exhausted and frightened, the man in the suit was standing right outside his driver's side window. "You can't leave until we say so. That's how null zones work. They're geographical traps. Space folds back on itself. You drive forever but never escape. The only exit is letting the zone release you." "And how do I do that?" "Cooperate, answer questions, submit to memory verification. If you're deemed non-threatening, the zone releases you and you go home. If not," the man shrugged. Martin had no choice. He climbed out and followed the man into the desert. After a short walk, a structure appeared, one of those perspective tricks where it suddenly snapped into view. A prefab building, matte gray, no windows, no markings. Inside was a sparse interrogation room, table, chairs, recording equipment. The man sat across from Martin. "Tell me what you think you delivered." Martin described the container, the pickup, the delivery. He was honest. He didn't know what was inside. The man listened, occasionally taking notes on a tablet. "And what do you believe was in the container?" "I don't know. Medical samples, research materials." "Not research materials, a body, or something very much like a body. Something that survived a crash in 1947 and has been in cryogenic storage ever since. We move it periodically. Security protocol. Tonight was a scheduled transfer." Martin felt dizzy. "You're telling me I delivered an alien body?" "I'm telling you what you already suspected. Now the question is, what do we do with you?" Hours of interrogation followed. They asked about his background, his security clearances, his family, his political views. They ran tests, psychological evaluations, polygraph-like equipment that measured responses Martin didn't understand. Finally, around dawn, they made their decision. "You're clean," the man said. "No foreign intelligence connections, no media contacts, no reason to share what you've seen. We're releasing you with a standard NDA and memory monitoring protocol." Memory monitoring. "We'll check in periodically, make sure you're not talking. If you do talk, if you violate the NDA, you'll be brought back here, permanently." They made Martin sign papers, so many papers. Non-disclosure agreements, national security documents, forms acknowledging criminal penalties for violations. Then they escorted him back to his truck. "Drive west," the man said. "The zone will release you in about 5 minutes. You'll find yourself on Highway 375. From there, you can navigate home." "What happened to the body?" The man smiled, and it was the first human expression Martin had seen from him. "It's where it needs to be, safe, secure, away from people who would panic if they knew. That's all you need to know." Martin drove west. The landscape began to change slowly at first, then more rapidly. New rock formations appeared, different trees. After exactly 5 minutes, his GPS reconnected to satellites, showing his location on Highway 375 just south of Rachel, Nevada. He was free of the null zone. Martin drove home in silence, processing everything. He'd signed the NDAs, he wouldn't talk, partly because he valued his freedom, partly because who would believe him? But the memory haunts him, the container opening like flower petals, the human-shaped imprint inside, the man who moved wrong. The null zone that trapped space itself. 3 months later, Martin received another assignment, same company, another sealed container, different coordinates in the Nevada desert. He declined the job, quit the company entirely, because he knows now what lurks in those classified facilities, in those geometric traps they call null zones. He knows what's being moved around in the night, kept secret, kept away. And he knows that some deliveries aren't worth making. Some cargo is too dangerous to acknowledge. Some places are designed to trap you and never let you go. Martin drives for a different company now. He hauls furniture and consumer goods, nothing classified, nothing that requires coordinates in empty desert, nothing that might trap him again in a loop of space, interrogated by men who don't move quite right. Because once you've delivered to nowhere, once you've been caught in the null zone, you never forget. You never stop watching the horizon for strange lights. Never stop wondering what else is being hidden out there in the desert. And you never, ever accept another government contract that provides coordinates instead of addresses, because some destinations don't exist on any map. They exist in the folds of space itself. And once you find them, they don't easily let you leave. Story 10. The Passenger. Vincent Carter had picked up hitchhikers exactly twice in his 30 years of trucking. Both times he'd regretted it within 5 minutes. One was clearly high on something. The other wouldn't stop talking conspiracy theories. After that, Vincent developed a firm no hitchhikers policy. But on a freezing January night, driving through Montana's empty plains on I-94, Vincent broke his rule. The man stood on the shoulder near an exit ramp, maybe 60 years old, wearing a heavy coat but no hat despite the near-zero temperature. He wasn't thumbing for a ride, just standing there perfectly still, watching traffic pass. Something about the stillness, the cold, the isolation made Vincent slow down. Against his better judgment, against his own policy, he pulled over. The man walked to the passenger window. Vincent rolled it down. "Need a ride?" Vincent asked. "If you're offering." The man's voice was steady, calm, cultured. "I'm heading east. Anywhere in that direction helps." Vincent unlocked the door. "Climb in." "It's too cold to be standing around out here." The man climbed in, bringing a wave of cold air with him. He settled into the seat, buckled up, and nodded his thanks. "I appreciate this. Most people don't stop. Most people shouldn't, no offense. None taken, it's wise to be cautious." The man pulled off his gloves, revealing weathered hands. "My name is Thomas." Vincent. They drove in silence for a few minutes. Vincent kept stealing glances at his passenger. Thomas sat perfectly still, hands folded in his lap, staring straight ahead. Not fidgeting, not looking around, just waiting. "Where you headed?" Vincent asked. "East, as far as you're going." "I'm going to Fargo. That work for you?" "That works fine." More silence. It should have been comfortable. Vincent appreciated passengers who didn't feel the need to fill every moment with chatter, but something about Thomas's stillness was unnerving. "You break down?" Vincent asked. "I didn't see a car." "No car, I was walking." "Walking? In this cold? Where from?" "Miles back. I've been walking for a while now." "You're lucky you didn't freeze. Temperatures below zero with the wind chill." Thomas smiled slightly. "I don't feel the cold anymore." Vincent frowned at the odd phrasing but let it go. Maybe English was Thomas's first language. They passed a mile marker, then another. The highway stretched empty, no other vehicles visible. The plains spread out under starlight, vast and desolate. "Can I tell you something, Vincent?" Thomas asked suddenly. "Sure. I've been a passenger in 47 trucks over the last 6 months. You're the 48th. Vincent felt uneasy prickle his skin. "That's a lot of trucks. I've been traveling, looking for something or someone. I'm not entirely sure anymore." "What are you looking for?" Thomas turned to face Vincent for the first time. His eyes were gray, almost colorless and deeply sad. "I'm trying to find the moment where I died." Vincent's hands tightened on the wheel. "That's not funny." "It's not meant to be. I died somewhere on this highway system. 6 months ago, maybe longer. I don't remember the exact date, but I remember the moment before, driving through a snowstorm, losing control, the truck jackknifing, then nothing. Then I was standing on the shoulder watching traffic pass." "You're saying you're a ghost." "I'm saying I'm not alive. Whether that makes me a ghost, a spirit, an echo, I don't know, but I know I don't eat. Don't sleep, don't feel cold, and I know no one sees me unless they choose to stop." "You chose to stop, Vincent, just like the other 47 drivers." Vincent considered pulling over and kicking Thomas out, but something stopped him. The man didn't seem threatening, just infinitely sad. "What happens when you're in the truck?" Vincent asked carefully. "I ride, I watch, I try to remember. Each truck ride brings back fragments, a curve I recognize, an exit sign that seems familiar. I'm following my own route backward, trying to find where I died. Because I think once I find it, I can understand what happened, and maybe then I can leave." "Leave where?" "The highway. I'm trapped here, Vincent, have been for 6 months. I can't go more than a few feet from the road. Can't enter buildings. Can't call my family. I just walk the shoulder and occasionally someone stops and I ride a little further looking for my accident site." Vincent drove in silence, processing this. His rational mind insisted this was a delusion, a man with mental illness or a traumatic brain injury. But something deeper, more instinctual, believed Thomas. The stillness, the coldness, the gray eyes, they all suggested something not quite alive. "What do you remember about your accident?" Vincent asked. "Snowstorm, late at night. I was hauling lumber. The road iced over. I felt the truck start to slide. I tried to correct, but you know how it is with a loaded trailer. Once you start sliding, there's not much you can do. The truck jackknifed. I remember the world spinning, then darkness. Then I was standing on the shoulder watching the sunrise. And you've been walking east." "My route was westbound, so I walk east trying to find the accident site. It has to be somewhere along this highway. But 6 months of walking, 6 months of rides, and I haven't found it yet." They passed through a small town, darkened except for streetlights. Thomas watched it pass with that same still attention. "Do you know what the worst part is?" Thomas said. "I have a wife, 2 grown daughters. They don't know what happened to me. I think about them constantly. Wonder if they're okay, if they've moved on, if they think I'm dead or just missing, but I can't reach them, can't even appear to them, only to drivers who stop." Vincent felt a deep sadness. "I'm sorry." "Don't be, you stopped. That's more than most do, just help me look. Watch for accident sites, wreckage, anything that might be from a truck crash 6 months ago." They drove through the night, both watching the roadside carefully. Vincent saw several old tire marks, some guardrail damage, but nothing substantial enough to be a fatal accident. Around 3 a.m., approaching the North Dakota border, they passed a section of highway where the guardrail had been replaced. New metal, bright and unblemished, contrasting with the old weathered rail on either side. "Stop," Thomas said urgently. "Stop here." Vincent pulled onto the shoulder. Thomas climbed out immediately, walking to the new guardrail. Vincent followed. In the moonlight, they could see where the old rail had been damaged. Deep gouges in the ground showed where something heavy had gone off the road. Beyond the rail, down a shallow embankment, tire tracks were still faintly visible in the dirt. Thomas walked down the embankment, following the tracks. They led to a flat area where the grass was blackened and dead. The shape of a large vehicle was outlined in scorched earth. "Here," Thomas whispered. "This is where I died." Vincent stood beside him. "Your truck burned." "Must have. I don't remember the fire, just the impact, the rolling, then nothing." Thomas knelt, touching the scorched earth. "I hauled lumber that would burn hot." They stood in silence for several minutes. Vincent wasn't sure what to say, what to do. Was there a ritual for helping a ghost find its death site? "Thank you," Thomas said finally, "for stopping, for helping me find this. What happens now?" "I don't know. I hoped finding this would release me, let me move on." Thomas looked around. "But I still feel tied here, still trapped." Vincent thought for a moment. Maybe it's not about finding the place. Maybe it's about accepting what happened. You died here, violently. Maybe you haven't let yourself accept that. Thomas was quiet. Then slowly he said, "I died here. My truck went off the road, rolled, caught fire. I died in the flames. My family mourned me. My body was recovered and buried. I'm dead. This is just an echo." As he spoke, something changed. Thomas became more transparent, his outline less distinct. He looked down at his hands. They were fading. "It's working," he said, wonder in his voice. Accepting it, saying it out loud, "I'm finally letting go." "Will you be okay?" Vincent asked. "I think so. I can feel something else now, something beyond the highway, a pull, like someone calling me home." Thomas smiled, the first genuine smile Vincent had seen. "Thank you, Vincent, for stopping when no one else would, for listening, for caring about a stranger." "Good luck," Vincent said, "wherever you're going." Thomas faded away completely, leaving Vincent alone on the embankment. The scorched earth remained, evidence of tragedy. But the presence, the ghost, the echo was gone. Vincent climbed back to his truck and continued to Fargo. He delivered his load on schedule and went home. He didn't tell anyone about Thomas, who would believe it. But 3 weeks later, Vincent received a letter at his company address. Inside was a newspaper clipping from a Montana paper, dated 6 months earlier. "Trucker dies in I-94 accident." The photo showed Thomas Morrison, age 62, hauling lumber, killed when his truck left the roadway in a snowstorm and caught fire. With the clipping was a handwritten note. "Thank you for helping our father. We don't understand how you knew to send us this information about where he died, but it brings us closure. We were able to visit the site and say goodbye. You gave us peace. Thank you." The Morrison family, Vincent never sent that clipping. But Thomas must have found a way, once freed from the highway. A final message to his family, delivered through the man who stopped. Vincent still drives I-94 through Montana. He still sees hitchhikers occasionally, standing on the shoulder. He doesn't stop for most of them. His no hitchhiker policy remains mostly intact. But when he sees someone standing too still, staring too blankly, looking too lost, he slows down. He remembers Thomas. And sometimes when the conditions are right, when his instincts tell him to, he pulls over, because the highway is haunted, not by malevolence or evil, but by the lost. The ones who died violent deaths and couldn't move on. The ones still looking for answers, for closure, for someone to see them. And sometimes all they need is a passenger seat and a driver willing to help them find their way home, even if home is no longer the living world, even if home is whatever comes after. Vincent carries that knowledge now. The highway takes, but occasionally it gives back, gives the lost a chance to be found, the dead a chance to be mourned, the forgotten a chance to be remembered. All they need is someone willing to stop, someone willing to listen. Someone willing to believe that the highway holds more than just roads and miles. It holds stories. Echoes, passengers who need one last ride. And Vincent Carter, trucker for 30 years, carries them when he can, one ghost at a time, one lost soul at a time, helping them find their accidents, their deaths, their peace. Because that's what drivers do on the lonely roads. We take care of each other, even after death, even beyond life. We give each other rides toward whatever destination awaits. And when the CB radio goes silent, when the night is deep and the highway empty, we tell these stories. So the next driver knows. If you see someone on the shoulder too still, too lost, stop. They might need you, and you might be their last chance to finally go home.